Welcome to our Thursday night Q&A. Today is December 21st. That is a super important day in the world of growing plants because it's the shortest day of the year, longest night of the year, so shortest daylight. I used to teach that it's the shortest day, and somebody once asked me, I thought all the days were 24 hours, no matter what day it was. So today is the shortest daylight of the year. So tomorrow it will be a little bit longer than today. And so this is a big thing because that makes the everyday going here forward in towards February, March. Days are getting longer. So those of us who are growing a lot of food in greenhouses, the plants will be responding to the awesomeness of more light. So right now there's a lot of plants that are totally dormant. But this is the class where we talk about a lot of fun things. We cover things like homesteading, farming, gardening, soil health, permacultural, liberal arts, silvopasture, and on and on and on. All kinds of cool things that we're talking about. And tonight is the same format as every other night. This is the 79th time I have done this. We do it almost every Thursday night, except for Thanksgiving and other nights, but those are on our schedule on the website. If you want to go there and check that out, you can see the schedule of what we're doing. Here are the 9 ways that I help people grow food. I've got a YouTube channel. We do our weekly Q&A, which is what we're doing tonight. Our Thursday nights are important because this is where anybody can come and learn about gardening and ask questions. I've got the Patreon channel where you can look at me in my garden growing food, and then we can interact there. That's a subscription where you pay a monthly to interact with me and in my garden so that you can learn how to grow the best food you possibly can. I'm a soil laboratory, so I can test your soil to see the living active organisms that are creating a functioning soil for you and your food supply. We have the Georgic Schoolroom, which is a 17-week class that I teach here on site. And the picture you can see here on this slide is some of the students from last year that were here. I do 3-day boot camps throughout the year so that people can bring their family and come and learn gardening here in my greenhouse on the ranch. I'm available for consulting. If you have a farm or a ranch or a homestead, I can help you with that. My book, Worry-Free Eating, is ready to order from Amazon, and my newsletter goes out when I have something to tell you. This is brought to you by survivalgardenseeds.com. Go there to get your seeds. They have fantastic heirloom and heritage open pollinated seeds. They are pretty awesome. They gave me seeds a while back when I was teaching a class last summer. I brought them home and I planted those, and there's a whole bunch of those growing in my greenhouse right now. So they're doing very well. And a lot of the things that I'm growing in my greenhouse right now on the shortest day of the year, those seeds from survivalgardenseeds.com are thriving in the middle of the winter where I am here in the Humboldt Mountains of Nevada. So that's pretty great. Go to www.georgicrevolution to learn more about what we're doing here to make the world a better place. Just quickly, I need to let you know on February 22nd through May 16th, on these Thursday night classes, we are going to be doing a book discussion on some books that are really important in the whole homesteading world, the permaculture world, the biodynamic world, the silvopasture world, this whole idea of how to grow the best food. These are great books about all of that. A lot of them seem like they're more in the genre of personal development, and they are, because you have to have personal development to be able to do what it takes to grow your own food. So we're discussing some of these great books. So we're going to be looking at The Winter Room, One Straw Revolution, As a Man Thinketh, Green Grass in the Spring, A Message to Garcia, Searching for Home, Finding Grace, The Strangest Secret, 12 Rules for Life, Holistic Management, Dirt, Soil, Worry-Free Eating, and The Lessons of History. These are some of my top books. Of course, my top books is a list of over 100 books, but these are a few that I thought would help give context without going too crazy and doing this for 100 nights. That's a little bit of overkill. Boot camp is coming up in just a couple of weeks. January 11, 12, 13. I still have room for people to come. So come and enjoy and love boot camp. This is a class where you're in my garden, and this is the first boot camp I did here when I moved to Nevada a few years ago. So this is right after I built my greenhouse, and this is my first class, and you can see us in my jungle garden there, picking all kinds of food and just learning about how to grow the most nutritious food in the world. The summer class, May 20th through September 14th of 2024. Those are the dates for the Georgic Schoolroom. So get signed up for that. We're taking 20 students this year. So you can get signed up for that right now. We are taking applications. Go to my website to find more information about that. Tonight's topic, let's get into this. Tonight's topic is eating what you grow. So I've known people over the years who have been kind of focused on, growing gardens, and they had a lot of different motivations for that. Some people are motivated for religious reasons. Some people are motivated by hobbies. Some people are motivated by their parents or their wife or their kids. There's a lot of reasons why people will grow a garden. And then the food looks foreign to them. It does not come in a package. It doesn't look like what they get at the grocery store. And even when something is mature and ready to eat, even if it grew really well, it still doesn't look the same. And so they don't know if it's good. I've run into that a lot. So that's why I do these classes, is to help people understand that sometimes the most nutritious food doesn't even look like what you're getting from the grocery store. Like a big old broccoli plant or a cauliflower plant. I've seen people with a beautiful cauliflower, which is pretty hard to grow. Cauliflower are not easy, but I've seen people with a big cauliflower. It was ready to eat. It was glorious and beautiful. And they didn't even recognize it because it had so many leaves around the cauliflower part. They didn't even know to open it up and look down in there. And then by the time they saw the cauliflower down in the center of the plant, it was getting beyond when it was time to eat it. So when we eat what we grow, it's an important thing to think about your diet. Think about the things that you eat normally, and then that's how you create your menu to grow your garden from. So a lot of times people are like, oh man, I'm going to grow all this food, and then they do, and then it goes to waste, and then they feel guilty, and so they don't garden anymore. So think about what you actually like to eat, and then that's what you grow in your garden. Plan to eat what you normally eat, therefore plan to garden what you normally eat. I knew a lady, and she would grow tons of tomatoes, and then she was kind of frustrated. She goes, I have all these tomatoes every year, and I don't know what to do with them, and it makes me feel bad. I don't think I'm going to garden anymore. And I say, well, do you eat tomatoes? Nobody in my family likes tomatoes. Well, no wonder you feel bad about it, because you're doing something that's causing a guilt complex. So that's kind of frustrating, We need to be focused on eating what we actually grow only what you eat. If you think about that, it's much better. So here's what I'm eating right now in December from my farm, my garden, my homestead, my ranch, where I live. From livestock, we have chicken that I raised. So we're eating chicken like once a week. I'll roast a chicken, and it's awesome because we have these beautiful chickens that I grew, and I still have a bunch that are alive. I could go butcher a chicken any day of the week and eat it. But it's more efficient to butcher a whole bunch of them at once and then put them in a freezer. So that's normally what I've been doing. We have eggs here on the ranch. We have beef, we have lamb, we have milk, we have pork. I think we ate all the pork, so we need to get another pig and butcher it. But we've been eating pork continually for a long time. So these are the normal things from livestock that we're eating right now from our own production. As far as the summer garden, we still have apples in the root cellar. We have onions and potatoes and corn and beans in the root cellar and in the freezer that we put up this summer. So that's fun. Fresh from the greenhouse. Right now, I can walk out to the greenhouse and I can pick lettuce, beets, cabbage, kale, broccoli, bok choy, celery, chard, green onions, parsley, cilantro, and there's other stuff out there, but I just couldn't think of it when I made this slide earlier today. But I know there's more things, like there's other herbs, there's other things for sure that are out there. So in times when you think there may be a food shortage, because I don't trust that semi trucks will always bring food. That's just the way I live. It's the way I believe. The year of 2020 during the COVID shutdowns, it actually showed us that that's a truth. We can't always rely on the grocery store to always have food. And if you take food off of the grocery store shelf, let's say lettuce or onions or beets, whatever it is, you take food off the grocery store shelf and you send it to a lab to have a nutritional analysis done, the nutrition levels are much lower than if you grow the food yourself. So we cannot rely on the grocery store for the most nutritious food, even if it's filled with food. So I think that a food shortage is actually a shortage of nutrition. But here's one good thing. Canned tomatoes actually have more nutrition than fresh tomatoes. So think about that. So that's pretty cool. The lab, when the reports come back, they say, yeah, man, these were really healthy tomatoes. Because when you can the tomato, through that process, they're more nutritious, which is pretty awesome. So we have to learn about nutrition if we really want to have the very best knowledge about this. But anyway, here's a list for you that shows some really great things to plan on growing if you think the end of the world's coming. I don't necessarily think that, but I do think that the end of really great nutrition is here, unless you're growing a lot of your own food or you have a farmer who's growing the same as homegrown food. So there's lots of culinary and medicinal herbs that are fun to eat. I put alfalfa here on the list because alfalfa is a good food to eat. It doesn't taste that good to modern diets, but it has every vitamin known to man. It's pretty good food to have around. And you can feed it to all of your livestock. You feed alfalfa to your chickens, they make a better, more nutritious egg. You feed alfalfa to your dairy goats, your dairy sheep, and your dairy cows, and the milk you're consuming from those animals is a higher quality of food for sure. So alfalfa is a great thing to have. Alfalfa can be put into like a compost to make the best compost. Alfalfa can be blended up in a blender, and then you put the juice, you mix it with water and blend it up, you make a juice out of it. You can put that on your plants and feed your plants. Alfalfa is a miracle plant. There's a lot of others that are fantastic too, but we don't have time to talk about them tonight. But that's, alfalfa is a good one. In times of stress, when it comes to our food supply, grow and use alfalfa. Eat it, feed it to your livestock, use it in your gardening. Alfalfa is king. Beans, grow them in the summer. Corn, grow it in the summer. Squash and potatoes, carrots, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, cucumbers, melons, peppers, peas, and lentils. Those are all things that you grow in the summertime. And then you harvest them and store them in such a way that you can eat them every day of the year. And then in the wintertime, grow cabbages, spinach, onions and beets, kale, garlic, melons. Melons is summer. Cereals, which means grain. So those are the ones that we're growing in the winter. Okay. Now you can grow some of those in the summertime, but if you're in a really hot place, you're going to be growing them in the winter. Let's say you are in the really hot area of southern Nevada, or let's say you're in Phoenix, Arizona. Cabbages, man, when you grow those all winter long, and anything in the cabbage family. So cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, kale, turnips, rutabagas, bok choy, all that stuff. There's a whole array of foods, and there's really fun ways to cook them. Anyway, there's a little bit of what to grow. Let's go to this next slide here and take a look at it. Here's how, this is the same list of plants, but how do you store them? So beans, we're talking about dry beans. If you grew, let's say, a big patch of dry beans, you could grow those guys and then shell them out in the evenings when you're doing whatever you do. I don't know. What do we, in my age, I turned 50 this year, so that dates me, obviously, but that puts me at saying things like, when you sit around and watch TV at night, do people do that anymore? I think they watch YouTube nowadays, but anyway, you can have a bushel of beans and you shell those out and put them in jars. And anyway, you could fill up a 5-gallon bucket of those, and then you have beans that are ready to eat throughout any time. And beans will last indefinitely. You can have beans that are in a jar or a bucket hundreds of years old, and they still have good nutrition. So dry beans are a fantastic thing to grow, and they're easy to grow. They're not hard to grow, but they freak people out because they think, oh, well, on a home gardening scale, I can't really do that. Yeah, you can. Maybe you need a little bit bigger garden to make it worth it, but certainly you can grow them. They're not a hard plant to grow. And if you're doing other things like watching TV in the evenings, then you have plenty of time to shell them and to harvest them. So corn is the same way. Dried corn will last forever and be really good. You just want to harvest these grain type crops in such a way, you store them in such a way that the mice and the bugs don't get in and eat them. So glass jars, like mason jars, just put them in there, just dry. Make sure they're totally dry though before you put them in there. Or even in 5-gallon buckets with a lid that seals on. That'll keep rodents and bugs out. So it's pretty great. Things like squash, potatoes, cabbages, onions, beets, carrots, melons, those things can go in just an old-fashioned root cellar. You can just dig a hole in the ground under your house, wherever, and if you can maintain a temperature under there at like 50 degrees, which is not hard to do, cover it with some bales of hay or whatever, that food will store throughout the winter pretty good. When it comes to cabbages, pull up the entire plant. Don't cut the cabbage out of the center of the plant. Pull the entire plant and then hang it from a string or a wire from the ceiling of your root cellar. 40, 50 degrees is ideal, and those will last for 2 or 3 months. And the big leaves that are around the cabbage, they will start dehydrating, and they will feed the inside of that cabbage to keep it more hydrated. So it's pretty great. Anyway, these are just some ideas of eating food that you grow. So actually eat the food that you grow, but only plant the things that you like to eat. And if you're interested in nutrition and health, then plant a lot of the old heirloom type plants that have funny colors, like the dark colors. So the light green lettuce is the least nutritious. The dark green colors are better, and the reds are even better. You want to get into the cancer fighting aspects of a lot of these cool vegetables that are out there, then you want the purples, you want the reds, you want the dark colors. They have more nutrition in them. And when you eat them, they taste basically the same. So when it comes to celery is a fun crop to grow. Get the purple kind. There's purple celery out there. It's less common, but it exists, and you can find it. And so that's a fun one. Like bok choy, you can get it that's purple. Get that one. Lettuces, get the reds and the purples. Those are the best ones to eat if you're eating for nutrition. And everybody should be eating for nutrition. But anyway, the grocery store has not exactly educated the common person to understand nutrition. The grocery store sells what people buy. And so we don't always have the opportunity to buy the best stuff from the store because they don't always carry those varieties. In fact, often the grocery store will carry the varieties that have the best shelf life. So they don't go wilty and die and get thrown away within a week. They'll sit there 2 or 3 weeks till somebody buys it. But that's miserable because that's not nutrition. Anyway, hopefully this has helped you have a fantastic garden this little bit here. Let's open this up to questions. Right before I open this up to questions, I just want to remind you to go to survivalgardenseeds.com, buy your seeds from these guys. They're personal friends of mine. I like this place, and my greenhouse is filled with cool plants that came from their seeds right now. I need to take pictures and make some videos and put them on Patreon about that. So that'll be super fun. And that's where you get your open pollinated heritage seeds. Super awesome. I'm going to stop the screen share here. So I'm opening this up for Q&A. Anything about gardening, farming, politics, let's talk about growing foods right now. So just unmute yourself, ask your question. When everybody's asked a question, we are done. Okay, we are done. Nobody asked a question.
Sorry, mine was being fresh. Mine wasn't undoing. I was trying to unmute. Sorry.
Just kidding. Okay, go ahead.
I have a question. I've been reading about alternative methods to transplanting. And there's some basically there were plants that you didn't transplant in the past because they had sensitive root structures or because they needed to be weathered early as seedlings, right? And I've been reading that now with some things like peat moss pots and stuff like that, where you don't have to disturb the root structure at all, it can be easier to do transplanting with things that formerly were like harder to transplant, like cucurbits or even corn and stuff like that. And I was just wondering if you had any thoughts or insights into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, actually at our boot camp and of course in our 17-week class, I teach how to do that. And what we do is we make a paper pot that is appropriately sized for the root system of those tender plants that struggle to be transplanted. Yeah, cucurbits are a struggle, and they usually have a bigger root system. You know, things like pumpkins, they get really big fast. So we will use a pretty big, like a 4, even a 6-inch around paper pot that's about 6 to 8 inches deep. And then when you go to transplant it, you're just going to have to dig a big hole out there. But it seems to work pretty good. I've even toyed in the last few years with carrots, getting, putting about 5 or 6 carrot seeds in a small paper pot and then getting those out there. They have not done as well as I hoped they would, but we certainly grew edible carrots. And in certain situations, it's a fantastic thing to do because it speeds up your process. So let's say just, with a carrot, it's going to take you like 2 weeks for the carrots to come up to germinate. I mean, they can germinate in 5-6 days, but it's about 2 weeks before you're really seeing them. And then it's another 2 or 3 weeks before they're substantial sized. So that's over a month when you would need to plant them. So if you're in a greenhouse situation where you're wanting to get as many crops as you can in a year's time out of there, 6 weeks is a big deal. So if you could start several trays of carrots in a pot, and then you're growing something else in that spot in your greenhouse, and you're maturing something for 6 weeks, you harvest it, and the same day you harvest whatever it is, then you transplant your carrot in there, and you're 6 weeks ahead on growing that carrot crop. So that's pretty awesome. So that does work well, but if you're going to grow the really long, like if you're wanting to grow 12 to 16-inch carrots, you struggle. So go ahead and get the smaller varieties, like the Chantenay carrots, like the Danvers carrots. They're shorter. They're only like a 6-inch mature carrot in the first place. So if you're putting in like a 6-inch pot that those were started in, it does work. Yeah, so I've transplanted everything known to man, I think. Well, not tropicals. I've never dealt with tropicals, but anything you'd grow in a North American garden. And I've done it successfully. So, but some things are still not quite as practical. For great big batches of carrots, I still just plant seed. So there are contextual times when transplanting, it works out to do that for sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we got Clint and we got TG. If you guys have a question, you can go ahead and unmute and ask a question. If you don't have a mic, you can type it in the chat, and we can go to the chat and check that out too. All right, so Zeke, do you have any more questions?
Yes. So I am interested in getting my carrots out as soon as possible into my garden. Just I want to give them the longest possible growing season, especially because I got these cool Japanese ones that are supposed to get like 4 feet long or something. I'm very excited to try that. But I'm just wondering when you would plant carrot seeds, because I've seen some people say just wait till last year frost is gone. Heard other people say you can plant them before frost. Seen some people say you should plant them in the fall and just bury them deep in mulch. What's your thoughts?
So any of those things will work. If you want a really good crop of carrots to eat, the best way to plant those is in the middle of the summer. So I'm talking like 8 weeks before your first frost. So where you are in southern Utah, you would probably be planting them mid-August would be a good time. The reason, and then I'll talk about spring too, because you just said you want to get them planted early. But the reason I'm doing a fall planting of those carrots, getting them planted in August, they're going to be ripening in the fall, is because the best carrots for the kitchen and for culinary purposes is carrots that are frozen. So you want them to have 4 or 5 good hard frosts, so that the tops of the carrots are up there and it's knocking them down. So that when the sun comes out after their 5th frost, they're knocked down most of the day and they're not really standing up again on those cold fall days, early winter days. And the reason is because it's going to enhance the flavor of your carrots about 10 times better. Freezing those tops creates those carrots to be really sweet and beautiful under the ground. So that's the best overall thing. But I know you asked about planting them early. Yeah, you could go ahead and plant them anywhere 4 to 6 weeks before your last spring frost is over. And that's a good thing to do. So just look at your local planting calendar. And so for you, where you are in Cedar City, Utah, that's going to be somewhere around what, April? 1st of April, maybe even March, mid-March, depending on the year. So you could get your carrots in kind of early. The problem with carrots, planting them, if you do get a really hard, late frost in the spring, it can kill them when they're tender and young. So if you're going to plant them kind of early, like if you're pushing it 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost, you may need to have a way to protect them. But anyway, yeah, but anytime from 4 weeks before your last frost in the spring, all the way until 6 weeks before your first fall frost, all the way through that spring and summer, you can get your carrots in. But you said you were excited about growing the giant 4-foot long carrots. That's an interesting idea. The people who win the prizes at the fair on those long straight carrots, they get a 55-gallon barrel, they fill it with sand, and then they kind of shake it, just like builder sand, like you make cement with or whatever. You shake it good, you settle it down with sand, and then you take a pipe. It's like a PVC pipe, maybe 1.5 to 2-inch pipe, and you push it down in that sand, and you make a core out of it. You gently pull it out so that you have a hollow space all the way down. And then in that, make sure it doesn't collapse in. So your sand needs to be kind of wet, not soggy, but wet. And then you would fill that core where you pulled the pipe out, you fill it with a good compost or like a good potting mix, peat moss, whatever. But you wouldn't want chunks in it. You'd want to sift it really good. And then you'd fill that with the just like a really good, beautiful compost. And then you just plant a carrot seed on top of it, water it good, and then that carrot will grow down in there because it has that loose sand. Then, like in a 55-gallon barrel, you can put about 10 carrots in there and they'll have plenty of room to grow. That's how you grow a 3 to 4 foot long carrot. So that's pretty exciting. Now, what's the name of the variety of carrot you got?
I'm looking it up now.
There's one, it starts with an N, like a and I can't think of the name of it. I grew them one year. It was fun, man. But I didn't have giant long ones. The longest one I had was like 2.5 feet, which is pretty darn long for a carrot. But I'm more into just growing food. I've never done the giant vegetable thing. Like, not seriously. Not like I was in a competition or anything. All right, Clint, TG, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them. We're going to wrap this up in just a minute. If you don't unmute, that's totally fine. No problem. Just want to give you a chance if you. Okay, it says no questions tonight. Wishing you all Merry Christmas. Thank you very much, Clint. Waiting on Zeke to look up the name of his carrot.
Sorry.
It's fine, no problem. Zeke's titled the Georgia Newsroom. He started a business. He's going to start doing some cool stuff. We might have him talk about it on one of these Q&As and tell us what he's doing. It's pretty exciting.
I have the name of the carrot.
Okay, let us hear it.
Manpukuji.
Oh, that's the one I grew. Yeah, I couldn't pronounce it either.
They're giant, and they're from Japan.
Is it a hybrid or is it an heirloom?
They say it is an heirloom.
Okay.
Or at least, actually, they don't say that. They say it's open air pollinated, which sometimes people use those terms in together.
Yeah, so just yeah. Okay, cool. Nice. All right. Okay, we're gonna wrap this up. Good night. Thank you for being here. Same time, same place. Next week. I didn't check my calendar. I'm pretty sure I'm on next week. I almost always am. So same time, same place, same link. Good night and Merry Christmas. Next week at this time, it'll be after Christmas. Have a great Christmas. And remember to get your seeds at survivalgardenseeds.com.